Schenk, ACA Associates in New York. Today, 99% of all the world's fuel is produced from hydrocarbons, gasoline that's refined, and the Jet A portion is 10% of what comes out of a cracked barrel of oil. We are clearly getting to the point where oil is getting both more expensive. At some point, we're going to reach peak production. And finally, airlines want to find a way where their oil, their petroleum, is cleaner than what they get out of a barrel of oil. So they have huge reasons for wanting to find an option to conventional jet. It's a lot more than just the economic part of it. They really do want to find a way of being friendlier to the environment than they are. One of the things that the world really frequently overlooks is that airline industry probably spends more money than any other industry in the world on green technology. They make very little money. On average, they probably make no money over time. And they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars a year on technology that's at least 20% greener than the technology they had before. And I know of no other industry that has that kind of record, but still, they need to do something more than that. They want to do something more than that. And finding green fuel, which has a lower life cycle carbon footprint than Jet A, is what they're trying to find. And I think this conference is great because Canada and the U.S. are working together in this area very nicely. It's economically infeasible to change the current global infrastructure of aviation, to take all the planes out of service, all the engines out of service, and or putting in a parallel set of fuel systems. The industry, which is what was done with ethanol, you have to have a parallel set of distribution. The industry has decided you need a drop-in fuel, which means that it is exactly the same as the existing fuel, and therefore is just as safe as the existing fuel, and in aviation that's a critical piece of it. AFI, which is the umbrella organization in the U.S., which is promoting the development of the technologies that are required to produce them, up with standards that everyone agrees is that if this is how you measure your life cycle carbon footprint, and therefore if this says your fuel is better, everyone agrees. They have come up with a place where the world can get free testing of their fuels. The first thing, if you, for example, have a new fuel, you deliver it to the FAA, who delivers it to the U.S. military in Dayton, and they'll test the fuel to see whether it complies with the characteristics of what Jet A is. Because alternative fuel has to have exactly the same chemical and molecular and burn characteristics of Jet A. It just comes from a different process and from a different feedstock than Jet A. The only type of alternative fuel that's been approved to date is Fischer-Tropsch fuel produced by the Fischer-Tropsch process. Sasol in South Africa, who happens to have invested $3 billion up in Canada over the last few months in natural gas reserves with Talisman, has 30 years plus experience in producing jet fuel plus gasoline and diesel fuel from coal down there. They invested $20 billion in Qatar in a natural gas facility. So today, the only certified fuel that can go in an airplane is one produced using the Fischer-Tropsch process. Later this year, we hope to have another process approved, which is called hydrotreating the fuel, and that comes from fatty acids, whether it's from a plant or an animal, it doesn't matter. But so all the agricultural products that you produce up here, tallow, anything that comes from a plant or an animal can be reprocessed into jet fuel. The economics of converting any one of these feedstocks to jet or diesel is really driven by the cost of the feedstock. So the cheapest feedstock is going to produce the cheapest diesel. And airlines are very sensitive to the issue of the food versus fuel debate. And they are doing everything possible to make sure that the feedstock they use is not competing with the world's food system. The challenge today is that if the feedstocks prices change with those of a barrel of oil, and there's reasonable people disagree as to whether that happens. But if they do, then no matter how high the cost of fuel, the barrel of petroleum goes, the feedstock prices will go up too, and you'll arbitrage out the savings. If, on the other hand, there are feedstocks that don't arbitrage up to the price of a barrel of oil, then there's a real opportunity. So I think the general feeling is that the higher the cost of the barrel of oil, the more economical this alternative fuel is. Canada has been and remains a leader in a lot of green things. The Bombardier C-Series aircraft is going to be the world leader in its class in being a green aircraft. Very exciting. The Q400 is a world leader in its class in being a green aircraft. I just learned that Canada has put in some test facilities for engines and de-icing that will be the world's standard for testing how engines deal with ice. Canada is clearly a leader, as was shown in this conference, in a lot of agricultural research. And I think there is a huge opportunity for Canada collaborating with the United States to lead the United States, because I think you have a more unified policy than we have in helping develop this alternative aviation fuel. So I think there's a great opportunity here to take a leadership position and create jobs for Canadians, and not just south of the border. This is a great workshop. I've learned a huge amount about the relative costs of various agricultural products, how complicated the systems are, and some of the people talking about how much progress they've made in using these feedstocks in producing value-added products that sell not because they're green, but because they deliver greater value to the client who's buying them.